So this is the Nike Aqua in light Orewood brown, and I've reviewed a couple of these already, and the reason why I picked these up is just because they're on sale, and I just like the way they fit. I kind of wear them around, I suppose, in a work environment, especially the black pair, and then I also have the blue pair, which I just bought for, initially for going on holiday, but I picked those up for cheap as well. And same for this pair as well, which I think was around the 45 pound mark, which is a good price. And I kind of like the way these feel on feet because it kind of gives you that barefoot feeling, but also I found with things like Yeezy Pods and that kind of stuff that these are kind of better to wear in general, just because there's a lower cut, and also it does feel more sock-like, but also I just like the way they feel on feet, and they have a nice sort of rubber outsole, and even for things like recovery as well, even though I'll get onto like the purpose in a minute of how these shoes existed. But they were originally released in 1992 and basically made as a water-friendly shoe. So this is to kind of sort of wear on the beach or on sort of rocky, watery terrain, that kind of stuff. Obviously, if you're going out to sea and stuff, you could probably use them for that as well. But they've just got this sort of rubbery textured outsole for that purpose, and the upper is made of that water-friendly sort of neoprene material that you'd see on hard shoes and that kind of stuff. So with the details, it comes in a light Orewood brown and desert khaki. So this one again is a slightly different colorway. Again, this one is more of a women's shoe. I kind of like that sort of light Orewood brown color. Again, it goes with everything. I think some of the other colorways have been sort of more 90s inspired and quite sort of loud. And what I mean by that is sort of more sort of fluorescent type colors, where it's like light pinks or like a highlighted green color, that kind of stuff, or like a purpley color. But the ones that I liked were the blue ones, because of the fact that they were a bit more, I suppose, aimed at men, I suppose, and then also that sort of blue orangey colour does sort of remind me of the 90s as well. And these have like a strobel board in the midsole, so they came out around about the same time with things like the Jordan 7, so that's kind of borrowed from that. And I like the way that sort of feels. It kind of gives you that sort of rigid structure underneath, so it doesn't just feel kind of flat, and also like it doesn't twist around too much either, so that's what's good about that. Obviously, you got the rubber outsole at the bottom of that. And like I said earlier, it's made of like this textile material, so it's very much sort of neoprene. It's not waterproof, but obviously it should dry pretty quickly. And original price for these are £60. So with the comfort and sizing, there isn't much comfort on these. They do feel more on the firm side. But like I said, I've been using them for work and that kind of stuff, wearing around the office. And like I said, the black pair is more sort of stealthy, and you can kind of get away with that in a work environment. And I just kind of wanted, I suppose, so I'm not wearing trainers in the office really, and just kind of wearing something a bit more sort of simple, where it feels like you're walking around barefoot. Because there's nothing worse than sort of wearing a pair of shoes all day, in my opinion. And that's whether that's sort of trainers or sort of more sort of smarter shoes, and just like the comfort of like basically having a bit more sort of freedom. And the way, for example, where I work, I don't have the opportunity to wear, I suppose, things like sort of sandals and that kind of stuff, or like Birkenstocks, because it's just a bit too, I suppose, a bit too on the sort of casual side, I guess, showing your toes. And it has like not too much of a contour insole, but you can sort of see in there the shape of it. It's a bit more sort of narrow and sort of slanted, I guess. But it's fine, as like I said, there's a flat sneaker. And like I said earlier, because it gives you that sort of low ground feel, it's very much sort of barefoot, and I kind of like that. And again, no wearing time with these. They're pretty good to go out of the box. I think the midsole is quite sort of flexible, as you can sort of see, but there's enough rigidity from the strobel unit that enables it to kind of be okay. And with these ones, it's weird actually. So with the women's ones, they come in half sizes. With the men's ones, they come in whole sizes. So what I would say to you is, if you're not fussed about the colorways, and you can find one that works for you, and you're like a half a size, I'd probably say to you to go for a women's colorway, because they seem to come in sort of half sizes. For example, this is a women's US 10, and it's a UK 7.5, and I usually wear UK 7s, for most trainers, I guess. Only sort of mesh runners I tend to go up half size. With this one I had to go up half size, and to be honest, I do have a lot more room in the toe box, and my toe comes to about here, I think, roughly speaking. But obviously, you can kind of negate some of that by wearing sort of thicker socks. But just so you're aware that there is a little bit of a size difference. And this has a good grip, in my opinion. I think this kind of, you've got this sort of watery kind of mark on the outsole, like paddle sort of splashes, I guess, or ripple effects. Just works really well. It's not the most stickiest, but I think if you're in a wet environment, it should work really, really well. So overall, I've been wearing around the office and never felt like I was going to slip or anything like that as well. So yeah, it's good to go, I think. So with the look and style, I mean, it is a simple looking pair of shoes, I guess, or footwear. And this one being more sort of on the neutral side, I kind of like that. Like I said, it's got pretty much a sort of beigey, going towards a khaki brown sort of colour, and then you've got this slight sort of tint of pink on the back of the heel and with the Nike logo. So I think it works well as well. And like I said, it's one of those ones where you can probably like play around with the different colorways. There seems to be quite a lot of different colorways releasing, and it's a good sort of spring summertime sneaker again. Like I said, if you want that low foot feeling, to be a bit lightweight, it's perfect for that kind of stuff. And most colorways, I guess, sort of casual wear, with these ones you can probably go slightly smarter, but I still probably use this one for casual. I think the black ones probably are the nicest to wear, if you wanted to wear them sort of more around sort of office environments and things like that. And it's a slip-on piece of footwear. It's a little bit awkward to get your foot in there, to be honest, because this doesn't stretch too much, but I don't feel it's that bad. I'd probably give it a 4 out of 5 rating to sort of put on. It's not that bad, but you will struggle just a little bit just to kind of put them on, but you'll find that there's enough give. So far, with the back heel pull tab, I've not found that to be sort of being loosened or the stitching to sort of pull away so far, so which is good. So with the final thoughts, I do like the flexible upper. Just a big fan of like wearing something like this where it feels more sort of sock-like, around the office. And like I said, they're kind of sort of on the lightweight side. So again, just the rubber outsole is pretty much giving you the weight. And I do like the kind of 90s colours, styles, all in all. This one obviously being more sort of simpler. And it's a good shoe for like water terrain as well. So I'd be happy to take the blue pair if I was going on holiday, for example, or to wear on the plane or to wear at the beach, that kind of stuff. So yeah, it's kind of perfect for that kind of use. And like I said, even for sort of casual sort of recovery walking as well. Like I said, the sizing is an issue. If you're sort of a half sizes, then go for a women's pair. If you're full sizes, then go for a men's pair. And I pretty much think their true to size is probably the best bet. I think if you go half a size or a full size up, that you're just going to have too much space, in my opinion. So with the ratings, I'm going to give the look and style a 4. I think overall, it's not one of those things that it's going to wow you in terms of footwear. It's more of a sort of utility piece. And same with the comfort as well. I'll give it a 4 because I just like that barefoot feeling. But obviously, it's not anything. It's pretty much bare bones. There's no sort of supportiveness in there. It's no sort of midsole cushioning. But if you like that barefoot feeling, then you'll like these, and that's why I've given them a 4. But I understand why people would give them a 3. And the quality overall for what you pay, I think it's fine. It's good enough materials, not the most special of materials, but for £60, or you can pick them up on sale, then obviously they're worth it. And that's why with the pricing, I'm gonna give that a 5. I think for the price that you pay, it's a pretty good price considering like things like Salomon and their recovery shoes tend to be around sort of 80-85 mark. And I know this isn't a recovery shoe, but I feel like you could use it as that. And that's why overall I'm gonna give the score a 4. I think if you're after a piece of footwear for the summertime, just want a slip on, then this is perfect.